I feel like as artists, as photographers, you need clarity of intent. You have to decide privately and honestly what game you're actually playing. Are you trying to make art or are you trying to win attention? And I think those are two very different pursuits. And when your internal compass is clear, when you're being authentic to who you are as an individual, that algorithm stops being a dictator and it just becomes another distribution tool.
Welcome to Pixels, where we explore the heart and art of photography. I'm Beth Below, and I am really grateful that you chose to spend this time with me. I'm really pleased to welcome Matt Payne to the podcast. He is my first encore guest. I had him on the podcast about 2 years ago, and I will put a link in the description to our first conversation. He and I have a wide-ranging conversation talking about originality in landscape photography, his new book, The Colorado Way, and some really exciting additions to the Natural Landscape Photography Awards. Matt Payne is a mountain climber and nature photographer living in Durango, Colorado. In 2018, Matt completed his lifelong goal of climbing the highest 100 mountains in Colorado, where his love of photography was kindled. Since 2017, Matt has hosted a weekly podcast dedicated to nature photography called F-Stop, Collaborate, and Listen. Matt is also the co-founder of Nature First Photography, an organization that was created in 2018 to help increase ethical awareness in nature photography. Lastly, Matt is the co-creator of the Natural Landscape Photography Awards, an international photography competition which rewards and celebrates nature photographers who dedicate themselves to photographing and editing their work in a realistic fashion. In 2023, Matt thru-hiked the 500-mile Colorado Trail as a photographer while climbing 30 peaks along the way, earning his trail name Extra Credit. Matt and I would love to know what resonated with you in this conversation. Please leave your comments below. Your likes and shares are always welcome, and they help other people to find this content. Be sure to subscribe and activate your notifications so you're always informed of new episodes. Now, on to the conversation. Hello, Matt Payne. It is nice to see you. Welcome to Pixels.
It's nice to see you again, too. I wish we had more time to hang out during Horizons back in October.
I know. That was the first time. You were taller than I expected.
I remember you said that. I'm like, yeah, but have you stood next to David Kingham yet? He's really tall.
I don't think so, no. Well, and I'm really short, so.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, you were taller than I expected, but it was a pleasure. Yeah, it was great meeting you. And yeah, we didn't have a lot of time to really connect, but it was good to be there nevertheless. And just that energy of a live group and, you know, seeing all these people that you only see on the Zoom screen was a real treat.
Yeah, it's always, I don't know, it's inspiring, I think is the best way to put it, because you get reminded that like you're part of this amazing community and like there's so many amazing human beings that are doing photography, and just to be amongst those amazing individuals is a real, I don't know, it's an honor.
Yeah. And what I was taken by is generosity, like the generosity of the presenters, generosity of the attendees with their information, their time, their experiences. You can feel that through a screen, but just getting together and really experiencing it, it really is a special thing. Yeah. So thanks for that trip down memory lane, because that was a nice, and got to go to Durango, which I had never been to before, and that is your home base.
Yeah, you got to see what it's all about. I mean, it's a pretty amazing location in terms of what I have access to in my backyard. I feel really privileged to be able to do that. Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk just a little bit about the Colorado Way, your book, and how Colorado has had such a it's the presence. It's a presence, the presence that is part of your photography and who you are, and how we think of, when we think Matt, I think of Colorado and trails, and so looking forward to talking more about that. But before we get into that, I have a couple of questions. And the first one is, what's giving you energy these days?
Man, I've been trying to be positive about this because there's a lot of things drawing down on my energy these days in terms of like just a lot of negativity online and things of that nature. But I think what's giving me energy is the completion of the book project and being able to actually move on to do other projects. What I learned, and I know you're going to ask me about the book later, but like what I've really learned by working on the book project is that having a project like that is what I need. I need that. I need to have a direction for my creativity. Otherwise, it just kind of is all out there going flapping in the wind and it doesn't really have any structure to it. So I'm looking forward to finding my next muse and my next inspiration and putting more thoughts into that. I actually just finished reading. I'm actually got it right here. Rick Rubin's book,
Oh yeah, the
The
creative way.
Creative Act, A Way of
Yeah,
Being.
yeah. Yep.
Super accessible book. It reads fast. There's a lot of
Mhm.
really interesting parallels in there to photography. In fact, I was reading it on the airplane and I was making all these notes in my phone and taking pictures of pages, and it was giving me all kinds of ideas of things I could write about that are adjacent to what he was writing about. So it
Mhm.
resonated with me a lot. So I find more and more inspiration from other genres of creative stuff. Like I think he's like a music producer. So
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I just so that gave me a lot of energy.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I can see that. And I'm glad you brought up that piece about the project and having something that is like to give focus, and otherwise we're sort of flapping around. Because one thing I've heard from a number of photographers that I've been talking to recently is um, I love taking my photos, but to what end? Like what happens to them? Why am I more than why am I doing it from like a personal internal, and more like why am I doing it out in the world? What's the end game, so to speak? um Anyway, yeah,
It's hard to
thought.
imagine, right? Like you would think that spending time in beautiful places and getting to witness some of the most spectacular nature scenes on planet Earth would be enough, right?
Right,
but I
and yet.
think but I think a lot of us, you get to a certain point where that, this can sound terrible, but it starts to feel a little redundant.
Mhm.
Not that I discount the experiences. Like I still love it every time I'm out in nature, but there is always like this nagging feeling of like, okay, but like, what else are you going to do with all of these images that you've captured? Like, there's got to be more than just slapping them in a carousel on Instagram and hoping someone comments on it. Like,
Yeah.
there's more, right? So, I
Right,
think
right.
thinking about projects and how our photography and our work and the way we think, how all of that relates to us as human beings, our place
Mhm.
in the world, our the way that we're engaging with the community that we live in. I think photography can be so much more for us if we allow it to be, and if we just sit down and think about what that could actually look like. And so,
Yeah.
um, working on my book project was kind of the first time that I did that for myself, and it was daunting but
Mhm.
also really invigorating and exciting. And then just like every other thing I've ever done in my life where I've put a lot of effort into it and then I finished it, it leaves you a little bit hollow inside. Like, oh,
Yeah,
now I need something else because
yeah.
that's done.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's an interesting cycle.
Yeah, it's something that you did. If you haven't experienced it before, it can kind of catch you by surprise, because you think of euphoria when something is finished, and like you're going to feel that when you hold the book in your hands and when it starts reaching other people. And there's been such an upward climb and effort that it can feel anticlimactic too.
Yes.
There can be a crash, almost sort of a not post-mortem. I've been watching too many crime shows. Postpartum depression. You're
No,
giving birth to something, and
I actually have a couple of chapters in the book where I talk about this experience for myself. As it relates to climbing mountains and also
Mhm.
finishing the Colorado Trail. Like in both of those instances, I had this immense sense of pride and excitement and happiness. And then almost immediately it's accompanied with this sense of sadness and longing and like, who am I now? Like I've finished
Yeah,
this thing that was so
yeah,
important to me and now I'm done with that. And that was such a big part of who I am, and now I
yeah.
need something else. And I don't know if it's just the way that I'm wired, but like that has been a consistent theme throughout my life, that
Mhm.
I found the only cure for it is to just keep going and finding the next thing to work on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can feel this sense of loss or grief, even, and I think of sometimes the crash happens because until we've done it in our minds, it's something big and it's like successful and exciting and all of this, and then we do it and it's a grind and it's exciting and it's a grind and then once it's done, it's like we know the answer and we've experienced the reality, and whether or not it met our expectations or inevitably it didn't in some ways, it's just a whole mixture of emotions that I don't think we are often, yeah, that we can anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, I know you had like a whole other career path before doing
Mm-hmm.
photography. Like you were the I'm gonna butcher this, but like you were the introvert entrepreneur, I think. Was that it?
Yeah. Yes, that's it. You
Yeah.
got it.
And so I'm sure for you, like you kind of went through similar things. Like you wrote a book and you had this
Mm-hmm.
whole ecosystem, and then you felt something and decided to pivot. And it's
Yeah.
I don't know, it's I've felt that a lot of times throughout my photography career, like where I've like, maybe it's time to do street photography, or maybe it's time to just
Mm-hmm.
do something completely outside of my wheelhouse, just so that I can feel that newness fresh again. And I found
Yeah.
some, there's a few hacks I've discovered along the way, like infrared photography has kind of filled that gap for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like doing some ICM and some multiple exposure stuff can help fill that gap. But yeah, I'm always hungry for like finding something else that sustains that creative passion, I guess. I don't know how else to
Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense to me. Well, we could keep talking about this, but I do have some some questions, and I'm sure we're going to circle back to some of it. So, um, I do want to pull out something because you recently shared in your newsletter a blog post called "Originality in Landscape Photography," and it was a response to an essay by Enrico Fossati. And honestly, as I was reading it, I kept, I was reading both for myself and for like, what kind of question do I want to ask you? And I could have plucked, a dozen or more of these points to talk about, but a couple, one stood out to me because you repeated one of the phrases several times. So what you wrote was, for the photographer committed to creating art rather than content, the task is to resist the pressure to perform and to remain faithful to a personal creative vision. So this is something, so what jumped out at me was the creating art rather than content. And so I want to sort of put a pin in that. But this whole idea of resisting like performance versus personal vision. We know that it's about our personal vision, but we also feel this kind of intense pressure. And depending on what your goals are for your photography, that pressure might direct you towards making sure that you're visible. And so it can start to feel like an either or. It's like either I'm visible because I am following, I'm playing the algorithm game and giving people what they want, or I'm sticking to my vision and wallowing in obscurity. Like
Yeah.
the algorithm cannot find me, and so nobody sees it. And that's sort of a joking, half serious. So I'm wondering what the both and is. How can we do
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great question. And I don't know, for most people who know me personally, they know that I love swimming in the nuance. Like I hate black and white thinking. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's incredibly dangerous to go down those paths. So I love the framing of the both and. So for me, like what you just described is kind of at the heart of the modern creative struggle. I think for a lot of us, that tension is very real, but I don't actually think it's an either or. I think it feels that way when we confuse the idea of visibility with validation. And so here's how I would frame the both and. So first, I feel like as artists, as photographers, you need clarity of intent, and which I think is what we've been talking about this whole time. You have to decide privately and honestly what game you're actually playing. Are you trying to make art, or are you trying to win attention? And I think those are two very different pursuits. And when your internal compass is clear, when you're being authentic to who you are as an individual, that algorithm stops being a dictator and it just becomes another distribution tool. So for me, I'm not creating for it. I'm simply using it as best as I can. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I don't think about it any much more than that. Second, I think it's important to separate creation from how we talk about the creation. So for me, the creative act has to remain protected. So when I'm in the field, there's no audience, there's no measurements, there's no metrics, there's no likes and comments. It's not a performance. That space for me has to stay sacred. Otherwise, I feel like your vision slowly dissolves into imitation, which we were talking a little bit about that before we hit record. But I think after the work's created, sharing it is a completely different activity. And I think that's where communication can be strategic. I don't think there's any artistic sin in presenting your work intelligently so that people can find it, trying to find the best vehicles in which people can discover you, things like that. But third, I think it's important to play the long game. I think a lot of photographers, especially people new on the journey, they're looking up to people who have been doing this for 15, 20, 30 years. And they're like, I want to be like that person. And they try to find as many shortcuts as they can in order to get there. And this is where I think it's important to kind of disassociate success from what you see other people doing good on social media, because they're not the same thing. Algorithms reward frequency and familiarity, but I think art and being authentic to yourself rewards depth and authenticity. If you chase that short-term visibility, you might gain attention, but you're going to lose your true identity. And if you stay faithful to your vision, you might grow slower, but I think that what you build, that community that you build, it's more durable. And over time, originality becomes your signal. And I think nowadays, in the age of AI, people are really hungry for that. And I think, the audience that you find, it might be smaller, but it's going to be far, far, far more aligned with who you are as a person. And I think that matters a lot for both your satisfaction as a photographer and as an artist. And it matters a lot for how you structure your business and think about running a business if you choose to. Fourth, I think it's important for us to just redefine what visibility looks like. Visibility for me it's not just about reach. It's about how our work resonates with other people and how we connect with others. A single image that genuinely moves people, that reflects your voice, often for me, that travels much, much further and lasts longer than 100 algorithm-friendly posts or a viral reel. Depth always beats noise eventually. So in my mind, there's a couple of ways that we can think about the both and. First, I think you should create without compromise and share with intention. Protect your vision, but don't hide the work. Use the tools that are available to us, like YouTube and Reels and carousels or whatever you choose to use, or newsletters, whatever. But don't become a slave to those things. And then second, your goal isn't to be seen by everybody. It's to be seen deeply by the right people. For me, that's how we create authentic connection. And when you stay faithful to your vision, you might attract fewer people, but you build a community instead of an audience. And community is what sustains both the art and the livelihood. And it's what leads to deeper personal satisfaction in the work that you're creating. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Whoosh. As soon as you said third, I'm like, I'm gonna lose track. Because there's so much there, right? And because there's no simple answer. And I think part of what I'm taking away, well, at least something I heard that I'm going to be thinking about is like, don't let the tools use you, use the tools. Or don't let the algorithm be the boss of you. You be the boss in terms of,
Yeah.
okay, the tool is there. Don't let it dictate anything to you. You have more power than you think.
Totally. I mean, it's crazy to me how many photographers that I personally consider to be some of the most innovative, interesting, creative people, and they've got like 4,500 followers on Instagram. But I guarantee you, like those 4,500 followers
Yes.
absolutely love their stuff, right?
Yeah.
And to me, that's so much more important than vanity numbers. Like it just doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. Well, it's making me think, I think it was Seth Godin, who originally was talking about like, you need, 100 raving fans, and that's better than 1,000 eyeballs. Um,
Totally.
so and that helps, at least it helps me, accept that not everybody is going to like my work. And that's totally fine, because the people who do like it really like it. It really
Yes.
lands. And I would rather have that. And if everybody likes it, I would feel like, oh, something's off.
Exactly. I mean, when I'm recording podcasts, sometimes I have a voice in the back of my head that's like, if everybody likes this episode, I'm probably not doing something correct. Like I need it to at least be a little bit edgy and
Yeah.
maybe upset a few people, because if everyone thinks it is the best thing ever, then maybe it's really not that special.
Yeah. Maybe it's not like pushing some boundaries, buttons, edges, whatever,
Exactly.
however you want to think of it. Yeah. And I think our photography is the same. It's like, if the response is always, that's great, then I don't think it's probably more catering to the masses as opposed to reflecting your true vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just facilitating a mastermind group, and a number of really good philosophical questions came up, and one of them was around an image and telling a story. And it came up just because when we're talking about our authentic voice, our personal vision, and creating art that is for us, we're also told like your images should tell a story. And one person said, well, I don't think so. It's like, can't an image just be a pretty picture? Does it always have to have some narrative? Um, does it have to have something that is beyond just that's an interesting image,
Hmm.
or that's just a pretty flower? Does there have to be a story? And I bring this up because I think storytelling and stories around our images are part of what is going to AI proof photography.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's a little bit of tension in my mind, especially as I work with abstracts. Abstracts may or may not have a story, or it's totally up to the person whether or not they see one. So anyway, what are your thoughts on this idea that every image has to have a story, or doesn't, or what's the connection?
I love the question, because it's something I've grappled with as well. But actually, there's an awesome chapter in the Creative Act book about this topic, and it really resonated with me. And it's the way I'm starting to think myself now. It's as creators, we need to disconnect our expectation that the audience, whoever that audience is, let's just say people out there in the universe, we need to
Mhm.
disconnect the idea that they're going to get the same takeaway of a story that we intended them to get when we created the image.
Mhm.
And that's become more and more clear to me over the years. Like, I'll share what I think is a pretty banal, like just pretty picture of a place that I just thought it was technically good, stunning light, really nice execution, edited tastefully, checks all the boxes for me, right? But not really a story necessarily. And I've had so many people, they'll reach out and be like, oh, your image reminded me of this trip I did with my dad and like this time I had, and he passed away 2 years ago. And like it becomes something more for the audience, right? And I think it's important when we're creating photographs, or if you're a painter, if you're painting, whatever your thing is, it's important to remember that like we're drawn to the creating of the thing for our reasons, right? Like for you, you like the shapes and the abstracts and the crazy things that you're like, wow, that's freaky. And I love that. You know what I mean? And I can't believe I created that with a camera. That's awesome.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe there's not a story. It's just like, I just think it looks cool as hell. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And you were drawn to that for all kinds of reasons. Like you're an individual, unique person. Your name is Beth. And you were drawn to that subject for lots of reasons. And that's what compelled you to create the thing. And you're putting it out into the world, and the world is going to interpret it however they want to, right? And as the creator, you have zero control over that. So whenever we put our stuff out there for consumption, like I think it's important to just say, whatever story y'all want to make about this is cool. I know I think it tells this story, and I'm happy to share with you what that story is, and this is why I liked it. But y'all come to your own conclusions, and I'm good with that too. So I think it's a yes and.
Yes, it's another yes and both and all of that. Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate like we can sometimes I might hesitate like, oh, it's just a pretty flower, oh, it's just this or that. But if it represents something authentic for us, we're not sharing it because of some algorithm or performative aspect. And we're just sincerely sharing it. People will make up their own stories, or they'll just say, wow, thanks for sharing that beautiful flower. That made me smile today. And that's enough.
And that's enough. Exactly. And I think it's important not to overthink this stuff. And I think it's super fun to go out with the intent to tell stories too. I think that's important too. In fact, I teach that on my workshops. For a lot of people, this might be the only time they'll ever visit this place in their whole life. And instead of trying to chase the best images possible that they've seen other people execute in the past, I like to give people an assignment. Like, I want you to create 6 to 10 images that tell the story of this place and how you experienced it through your unique perspective, because I guarantee that's going to be more interesting than how someone else has already done that. And I think that's an important exercise. And the story doesn't have to be complicated. It can be, this is what I saw that I thought was interesting. That's it, you know?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't have to be profound, earth-shattering, life-changing.
Right.
Yeah. And my feeling is it is always telling a story in terms of like, it's telling the story of how you see the world. And how you see the world is based on your experiences that no one else has had, you know, your perspective. So there is always a story. It just might not be obvious to other people.
Yeah. And with that being said, I love it when photographers share captions about why they were drawn to a subject or what it means to them. Whether or not I can pick up on that through looking at it myself is not really that important. I just love the fact that people have put thought into that stuff. I think that's how you make interesting photographs.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about the Colorado Way, your book, and it's interesting because what you were just saying about like we can create something and put it out there, and once it's out there, it's out of our hands. And I find that that's easy to say when it's not mine. I say, of course, that's how it should be. How are you feeling about that in relation to the imminent release of your own book?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, going into the project, when I was pretty much almost finished with it, I had a lot of self-doubts about it, like, because it's super different than anything else I've seen anyone else create. It feels a little bit risky. Um, it's different, and hopefully people like it. Like, and I think it's important, like we were talking about before, it's important to recognize that not everyone is going to like it. Like, some people might read it and think it's stupid or it's boring or like it's just not interesting to them. But I guarantee, I'm pretty confident that some people are going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
With that being said, like, I remember when I sent an advanced PDF to my colleague Richard Burnaby before we recorded a podcast about it, and he actually took the time to read the book, and he had all these really cool things to say about it that I hadn't even thought of. And it was kind of like a sigh of relief. Oh, okay, cool. Like, so it's not terrible. That's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, there's a lot of self-doubt wrapped up in it, but also I've kind of disconnected my feelings about that, because at this point it is what it is, and people are going to form an opinion about it and they're going to like it or they're not. And I just have to say, like, I did the best I could this time around, and next time I make another book, maybe it'll be better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not to say that it is bad, but yeah.
Where are you setting the expectation bar now?
Yeah, I don't know. That's I think that was honestly why I'm hesitating with kind of a wishy-washy answer there, because it is way different than like what I've seen a lot of other people do in the past. Like, if it was just a book that was like a collection of images and captions, that for me, that would be it's a different bar, right? Like,
yeah.
like, you're thinking more about image sequencing and making sure you obsess over every last detail about color fidelity. Whereas my book, it was much, much more important to think about the structure of the essays, the order of the essays, the flow of the essays, and how my photographs fit into telling the story that's within those essays. So, like, it was a completely different project than what I've seen other people try to take on before. And so I don't really have a bar to set it against. So it's like, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we're paving the trail. Well, and it's an echo of what we were talking about before, of perform versus authenticity. And if you wanted to play it safe, you would do, here's a pretty, here's the picture, here's the caption, here's the picture, here's the caption. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I could imagine my first attempt probably being something like that. And it's absolutely, one way of doing it. And you're doing something that you don't know how people, you're sort of safe with knowing how people are generally going to respond to something that's familiar that they've seen before. And when they haven't seen it before, then it's like all bets are off.
Yeah, exactly. And I've just kind of like reset my mindset to understand that some people are going to like the format and other people aren't. And I just have to be okay with that at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we know some people are really excited about it because you did this through crowdfunding. You did a Kickstarter.
I did.
And so tell us a little bit about like what led you to choose that particular path and maybe what you learned from that process that is, it can veer on the sort of Kickstarter side, but maybe even what you learned in that process about yourself and putting a work out there.
Well, for me, doing it through Kickstarter was a purely financial decision. I mean, if you're not aware, like, creating a hardcover book that's got decent materials is expensive. Like, it's very expensive. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't have, $40,000 sitting around. But I did know approximately how much it was going to cost me to produce 2,000 copies versus 1,500 copies versus 1,000 copies. And so when I set out to do the Kickstarter, my aim was really to have that help frame how many copies to get done. Because when you're doing offset printing like this, you really don't see any cost benefit until you get
Mhm.
to about 1,000 copies. And 1,000 copies of a book like this is going to cost you about $30,000 to $35,000. And so I knew that I needed to at least raise 2/3 of that. And so that's how I
Mhm.
set my goal in Kickstarter.
Mhm.
Fortunately, I had um, the wisdom of some other people that I could lean on who have done some successful Kickstarter projects in the past. My colleague Taylor Stone did a really
Mhm.
fantastic Kickstarter project for her filmmaking in Greenland project, and she gave me lots of actionable advice on how to structure the Kickstarter, how to, and most importantly, like you need about a month tarmac before you even launch it
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that you can do all of this pre-work, like pre-marketing work to like really get your audience excited about what's coming, but then also to get as many people as you personally know possible to agree that they will help you when it launches.
Yeah.
Because if you get those signals on the Kickstarter, I mean, it's just like any other platform, it has a stupid algorithm.
Mhm.
And if you get a bunch of people outside of Kickstarter going in to see the project, it signals Kickstarter that it's a good project, and then they will then put that on their projects we love thing, and then
Mhm.
it'll get shared more widely, and then you'll have a better chance of meeting your goal. So
Yeah.
that was important. And I also say, sorry, I'm kind of answering your questions in this circular way, but I was actually on a trip with Nick Stover before I launched the Kickstarter, and I was kind of on the fence of whether or not I wanted to do a Kickstarter or how I wanted to do it. And we had these big, long, like 8-hour drives up in Canada. And he's the one that kind of convinced me. He's like, "Yeah, dude, you need to do a Kickstarter, and like the book is good. You got to go." And like he
Mhm.
just gave me that little nudge to like just move it forward. And that
Yeah.
was important because I did have a lot of doubts about the project and a lot of fears that people wouldn't like it. But at the end of the day, I was like, well, worst case scenario is that no one buys it. you know, I I put in a lot of work into it, but if nobody wants to fund the project, it is what it is.
Mm. Mhm. What would you, well, it's not really fair to ask. I was say, what would you have done if it hadn't been funded? Would you have found a way to pull forward, reassessed?
Yeah, I think I probably would have scaled it down to a smaller project and just
Mhm.
self-funded it, but it probably would have taken a much longer to get
Yeah.
it off the ground.
Yeah.
Probably just try to save up a little bit of extra savings and just get a smaller print run and
Mhm.
try to break even on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank goodness Nick Stover gave you that nudge. And I think Nick Stover is a nudger because it's thanks to
He
him that,
is.
I had the nudge to even launch this podcast. So thank you, Nick.
Yes, thank you, Nick.
um, did you find that there were people that you didn't know that were funding the project, even at significant levels, or was it mostly
Yeah,
a
I've,
inner
I mean,
circle?
I would say like 75% of the people I recognize their names.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's a handful of people that pledged at high amounts. Never heard of them. Don't even. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't even appear to be photographers. They just love backing Kickstarter projects.
Cool. I need to
Yeah,
meet those folks. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Well, so I want to know, what did you learn about yourself during this process? Because there
Hmm.
have to have been some moments of some awareness about
I
you and your
think.
relationship to it.
Yeah, I think it definitely showed me that I absolutely need these big projects in my life. Otherwise, I get really bored and
Mhm.
I've I stagnate as a person. I stagnate as a creative person. Um I revert back to bad behaviors. Like I just want to play video games and drink beer all day. I don't, it's like I
Mhm.
need these things to keep me motivated to stay the best version of myself physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Like for example, um, Nick also convinced me to sign up for this workshop we're doing in 2028, where we're going to go deep into the Karakoram in Pakistan.
Oh, wow.
And it's expensive, but like it's also motivated me to like get super, super crazy fit. So like all
Hmm.
I've been doing for the last 3 months is exercising nonstop.
Oh,
And when
man. That's
2028 comes, I'm just going to be a beast and it's
yeah.
going to be amazing. But like,
Absolutely.
I need those things to keep me
Yeah.
going. Otherwise I just get lazy. And so like, it taught me that for sure. I have to have
Yeah.
these things in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and as many of us who are making our living this way, it's different than going to a 9 to 5 job where there's instant structure, accountability. We have to make our own structure and our own accountability, and knowing how much of that to make is a really important part of being able to do it at all. Because we can first say, like, oh, I've got all this time and freedom. And then you find out, oh, that freedom just makes me want to play video games and drink beer all day.
I'm not going to lie. Like the first 3 months of not having a 9 to 5, I definitely struggled like with not having that routine and like forcing
Mhm.
myself to give myself things to do. And I think the hardest thing we have to deal with is like knowing what effort to put into what things, because as you know, there's not a lot of feedback signals we get.
Right.
There's things that we could spend 200 hours on that might
Mhm.
not pay dividends for like 6 years, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
I will say this, that money has never been my North Star. Like
Mhm.
it's just a means to an end for me. And like, it's nice to have it so that I can pay my bills. But I've never used that as like my guiding principle. Like my guiding principles are authenticity, ethics, being true to myself, and having fun, like enjoying what I'm doing. Because if those things aren't there, then I got to find something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could never be a sleazy car salesman, or
Mhm.
like I can't be someone who lies to my audience to get sales or whatever. It's just I can't do
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. What you just said made me think about um, it can feel like the challenge of the algorithms is new, but it's not, because money was the algorithm before. It still is, but money, like, you're performing for money. Like, I need to pay the bills, I need to produce art that is palatable, that people will pay for. So it's really not a new struggle. It's just sort of shifted in its in what clothes it's wearing.
Well said.
Yeah. Just something to think about, because it can feel like, oh, we have it so much harder or whatever. It's like, no, we actually have it so much easier. um, the beast has just sort of shifted a little bit, and now it's actually money and algorithms. So
Right.
yeah, challenge. Well, what are you most excited about with the Colorado Way and it being out there in the world?
I'm definitely excited to hear about how it resonates with people who read the book and actually um, try to apply some of the things that I put in the book to their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't see myself as being a perfect person, but I do think that I've done some things in my life that I'm very proud of, and a lot of it is based on the way that I've shown up in life. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've tried to distill a lot of those things into the book in a way that I hope people can incorporate it into their own lives in their own ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be like going off and doing their own crazy physical challenge. It can be anything. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to hear how it motivates others to to maybe become a slightly better version of themselves.
Yeah, cool. Well, I can't wait to get my copy, and I will let you know how it motivates me, and I hear you issuing an invitation to anybody who's listening when they get their copy, to let you know, like that's going to be something you're curious about.
Yeah, and let me know if you think it's total hogwash too. I'm good with that as well. I mean, I think it's not talked about enough, but I think as creatives, we need to be much, much more comfortable with getting feedback that what we created isn't landing. And it's
Yeah,
okay for you to take that with a grain of salt, because I promise that probably for a lot of other people it does land. So it's okay.
yeah, yeah. And not everybody is our audience, and so
Boom.
there's like there maybe they just weren't my audience, and that's okay.
Exactly.
No worries. Well, I want to shift and close out our conversation talking a little bit about the I do that all the time, Natural Landscape Photography Awards, because there was an exciting change that came across over email a few months ago where you were announcing, I believe it's a special category. I don't know that it's a main one, of sort of alternative techniques, so including room for ICM and multiple exposure. And when I saw that, I was like, whoosh, I wonder what those conversations sounded like that led to the inclusion of that. Um, would you mind giving us just like a little taste of the the what went on behind the scenes of deciding to add that to the Natural Landscape Photography Awards?
Yeah. So I know our categorization stuff can be confusing, but like we have three main categories, which is grand landscapes, intimate landscapes, and abstract landscapes. Those are the three main categories. And then we have a rotating cast of 7 to 8 special awards, which are based on a theme or a concept. And so we created a new special award for multiple exposure ICM. So you're right. There was definitely some interesting conversations that went on and some resistance. I was actually the catalyst because I personally, I really love this kind of photography. I think it's innovative and interesting, and it can be deeply expressive for people, and it's also can be rooted in observation, and it's still grounded in a real encounter with nature. So for us, the question was never whether it's valid. Obviously, it is. The question was whether there was a particular place within our framework to recognize it in a way that still honors the spirit of the natural world. So we realized that there was, and more importantly, there should be a place for it. And this is, like I said, it's a special award. And I think we're really excited to see what people submit while staying true to the broader mission of the awards. But more broadly, it reflects something that we've been thinking about as the organizers for a long time, which is that nature photography is not static. It evolves as artists evolve. And our goal has always been to celebrate photography that's rooted in a genuine relationship with the natural world. But that doesn't mean that it must always be literal or traditional in its format. For example, abstraction, abstract interpretation, and experimentation can reveal emotional or experiential truths about nature that a purely descriptive image sometimes can't. So by opening the door to this type of work, we're not moving away from our values. We're just expanding the ways that photographers can express their connection to the natural world while still honoring authenticity, craft, and intention.
Yeah, cool. Well, something you said is part of what I think about as being different about the Nature Landscape Photography Awards is that it seems like there's an emphasis on the photographer's relationship to nature. Yes, there's an outcome, but the important part is getting out there and being in relationship, engaging with it, experiencing it, interpreting it, finding your own voice in it. And in that way, that new special award resonates. Because I find when I'm doing those sort of alternative techniques, I have to look deeper.
Yes,
The obvious is not going to do it for me. I have to work
totally.
harder.
I'm with you. I've been gravitating more and more towards that myself. Not necessarily by doing like multiple exposure type stuff, but I've been doing a lot more just really weird stuff, like photographing scenes at 600 millimeters with weird reflections in them and stuff like that. I sent you a few of those images, but
Cool.
like I did I was just in Death Valley for a black and white workshop that I co-led with Mark Munch, and I was doing some weird stuff, but I was loving it. Like,
Yeah.
you've been to Death Valley before, and right now that Lake Manly is still there, and I was photographing like these super tight scenes just of the reflections in the water and like how the low sun was interacting with ripples, and how the reflections of the mountains flipped upside down looked like different things that it didn't represent, but represented something else. Like, I was looking for all kinds of weird stuff and I was loving it. So I think there's a space for that in nature photography.
Yeah, absolutely. And it encourages us to see the world a little bit deeper and differently. And then by extension, anyone who sees it might start to see it and engage with it differently and more deeply.
And they might look at it and think, oh, that's really stupid. And I'm good with that too.
Oh, I want to think that it's going to inspire deeper. And you're like, oh, they might be like, it's dumb.
But
it's
my
true.
point is, it's fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Like,
It's all
we
legit.
have to be okay with that. We have to be okay with people looking at our photos and thinking, God, that doesn't do anything for me. And that's fine, man. It's all good.
Totally good. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you for talking a little bit about that, because it's so intriguing to me, and I am also very curious. I'm curious about what I'm going to put together. I'm curious about what other people are going to do. It feels exciting, and I appreciate that such a prestigious and well respected and very values based competition is looking at that kind of expansion, like, saying a yes and to what's possible.
And we know that we might open some cans of worms, but
Yeah.
it's all good. We'll figure it out.
I already emailed you about some cans of worms.
Yeah, we have lots of people giving us some feedback, and it's at the end of the day, we just got to try it out and see what people submit and figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And lots of grace extended.
Yeah, grace for the people entering, and hopefully people give us some grace if we don't quite get it right the first go around.
Absolutely. When you have these special categories, are they always up for optional renewal, or like you see how it goes? Or
so I wouldn't say it's like there's not like a formula for that. We do look at like how many people entered images into different special awards, and if it's something that not a lot of people connected with, we might put it on the shelf for a year or two. But we're always trying to try new ones. We want to keep, the whole goal for us is like, the whole impetus of the competition really was to like celebrate the type of photography that we all love to see, and that we also have seen like get ignored for so long. And we're like trying to find different ways to celebrate different types and styles of photography that people are doing. And so if we get a huge batch of submissions and people are loving it, I'm pretty sure we're going to do it again. But if it's like only 100 entries, like we might put it on the shelf for a year or two. Like, it just depends. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Everybody enter.
Yes.
so that it lives to see another day after the first go around. Well, anything else that's been on your mind that might be interesting for anybody who's listening?
Yeah, I hate to open this can of worms, but it has been something I've been thinking a lot about lately. And I've been talking with a lot of other photographers about it as well. And I'm trying to frame this not in a negative way, but there's a lot of work that happens when we create these kind of things like the competition. And it's just occurred to me that like photography is not just an individual pursuit. It's a shared ecosystem that we're all a part of. And a lot of the projects that I feel are truly moving our medium forward, whether that be book projects, well-run competitions, educational platforms, they're not usually built to maximize profit. They exist because people believe in what photography can be at its best. And I know for me, like my book project right now, it's essentially just breaking even. The competition we created, like we've never paid ourselves for the work that we do for that. And it's not meant to be a complaint. It's just simply the reality of trying to build something meaningful and lasting. And, passion, it starts with these kinds of efforts, but the community is really what sustains these types of things. So I think if people value depth and craft and authenticity in landscape photography, then I think it's important that we support one another and we become part of the responsibility that we all share in sustaining these efforts and making sure that they are around for a long time. And of course, support doesn't have to mean money. Buying a book or entering a competition or backing a project, of course that matters, but it also means showing up, encouraging others, sharing meaningful work, and participating in the culture that we want to see thrive. So for me, like it's not about obligation, it's about stewardship of a community. And I think the photography community becomes what we collectively choose to nurture. And if we want it to remain rich, thoughtful, and grounded in the things that we love, then we have to be willing to support the people and the projects that are building that future. So that I'm putting a lot of thought into that, is like, how do we get that message out there more, that like, if there's things that you really love, you have to support them somehow, like, or they're going to go away.
Yeah. It's not just a like on Instagram. There's got to be, next steps.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. And I've heard a number of photographers talk about, like the people, everyone's out there, but there's so much individuality that the sense of community doesn't always come together, or they don't know how to form community. And there are certainly pockets, but it's a little, it's not as easy as it is in some other sort of lines of work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with a podcast guest yesterday who kind of got his photography start back in the 70s and 80s. And he said back then it was super cutthroat. Like you viewed every other photographer as your competitor. And like you would go through great lengths to keep anything that you do that's unique or like stylized. You would try to never share your secrets with anybody because those were your only competitive advantages. And I feel like nowadays it's like flipped completely in reverse. Like everyone is so much more supportive and information is readily available anywhere you look for it. And but in order for that to sustain, like we have to make sure that the people that are creating the things we love get the support that they deserve.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a great note to end on, and give Matt the support he deserves by picking up a copy of The Colorado Way.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
This is
do you have
I've actually got the whole printed book, but this is not bound.
Yeah.
But this is the cover.
Amazing.
The real size of the book. It's kind of chunky.
It's hefty.
But I'm excited. It should get to my house. I think the date's like March 20th. So, barring any weird transit disasters that hopefully don't happen, but
yeah, it's going to be in your hands before you know it. Then it'll be in everyone else's. Well,
hopefully.
Super exciting. Yeah. Congratulations. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And
thank you.
It's going to be wildly successful. However you define success for yourself,
Exactly.
Yeah. So Thank you, Matt. And I should have mentioned at the beginning, you're my first encore guest. So I'm just excited to be able to have this kind of follow-up conversation with you, and especially at such an auspicious moment. So thank you.
Well, you are a real treat and a gift to the community, and I hope you keep doing what you're doing because that's really fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Let us know in the comments what was most useful or meaningful to you, and be sure to subscribe so that you're notified of future episodes. Thank you again so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.